Okay, so welcome to week 7. Everybody's been doing a heck of a lot of work. It's been great. I've looked at a few of the videos already this evening and this afternoon, and they're fantastic. So I'm looking forward to kind of showcasing those in a bit. We'll also go over the pitch decks and what you've done so far. Right now, we're focusing on just kind of bulletizing the content. We'll also go over the slides that I told you could skip for this last week. We'll go over those and then have a set of new expectations for the deck going into next week. As we move through over the next couple of weeks leading into the last week, we're going to spend a lot of time, all the time, on these decks and really kind of honing them in and making them as ready as they can be for y'all to present at our final session. So that's what our focus is going to be on for the next several weeks. Now, if you have any questions about any of the topics we've covered, the material is out there, but I'm happy to go over things again. So tonight, if you have questions about any specific areas, you want to cover something we've already covered, but do it in more depth, tonight's a great night to do it. We're probably not going to take the full time that we usually do because this goes rather rapidly. We only have 3 teams, so we do have some time to talk about some other topics and subjects. All right, so what I wanted to kick off tonight with was going over the 60-second elevator pitch videos. Let me see if I can successfully share this. Wrong button. Okay. Perfect. Okay, so let's see, team 1. All right. And these work perfectly today, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so here we're going to see team 1.
Translational gene therapies like messenger RNA and CRISPR-Cas9 have emerged as a new category of therapeutic agents to prevent and treat various diseases. Lipid nanoparticles, or LNPs, have been developed as a drug delivery method for these therapies. However, because of limitations of current standards, a large swath of chronic diseases like cancers, neurodegenerative diseases, and vascular diseases that would benefit from translational gene therapies are limited only by the effectiveness in delivering them to their site of action. We want to partner with 2 critical groups: companies that are currently manufacturing nanoparticle-mediated drug delivery products and companies developing gene therapy payloads. Our naturally derived lipid nanoparticle formulation has a high rate of drug encapsulation, allows efficient and specific target delivery, and addresses the immunogenicity and cytotoxicity of current standards. By offering a method for safe, long-term payload delivery, we open the space for translational gene therapies in the treatment of chronic disease.
All right. Was everybody able to see that and hear that? Hopefully, Ryan, you're on the screen. Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, shaking it up. I thought that was a great, fantastic 60-second elevator pitch. I mean, you were right at 60 seconds, give or take a second or two. You delivered a very clean script of what the problem is and who you're looking to work with and alleviate pains and provide gains for. It flowed very, very well, and it kind of set up a narrative. So as you're doing this and going through the script and kind of understanding what you just put together there, this is somewhat of your intro to your pitch as well, right? This is how you're going to establish the narrative going into the rest of the slides of your pitch. So in essence, this exercise that we've done about going to this elevator pitch is not only just so you can give a kind of a 60-second overview of what you're trying to do and why, but also it kind of sets the narrative for the longer conversation. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. Somebody asked me about that, about how long these should take and what about questions and answers. When you're giving these elevator pitches, the goal there is to have the person ask you more questions, and then you get 2 to 5 more minutes maybe. If there continue to be interest, maybe you get 5 more minutes on that. Now you're at a total of 10, right? So the elevator pitch is the kind of the first little piece. But the same thing goes to the deck. This is what you're establishing as a kind of a microorganism version of the deck itself without all the details and everything else. So you've already done a great job of getting to this point and understanding the space, the problem, market fit, and now you just encapsulate it into a nice, great, concise, very effective 60-second elevator pitch. So great job, team 1. Any questions from team 1?
I don't think so.
Okay, great. Okay, this is team 2.
Hi, I'm Diana. I'm the CEO at Blockseed. Did you know that we expect to have more than 10 billion humans on Earth by 2035? It's crazy, I know. And feeding all these people has already become a matter of national security. The worldwide demand for food is expected to increase by 58 to 98% by 2050, which will require an increase of crop production to nearly double in order to sustain this projection. To address this challenge, we developed the block seed technology. In short, this technology is a better way to produce new crop varieties with improved traits, yield, and biosecurity. Because we are using blocks and don't target genomic DNA, block seed can generate much cheaper seeds and 60% faster than current methods. At Block Seed, we are working on a proof of concept and are now looking to raise funds to test large-scale production. We have team members with business-to-business expertise to license our technology, so we're hoping to get on the market in the next 6 months. If you're interested to learn more about Block Seed, drop us an email and we'll schedule a meeting ASAP.
All right, that's block seed. So I thought at first this was going to turn into some sort of elevator and open up, and maybe I'll see your video right there. Something I probably would have tried to do just because I like to tinker with these little things and everything else, but that didn't happen, right? So first of all, let me discuss the elevator pitch in itself, right? I think it was very good. Again, solid. You clearly stated the problem areas. You clearly stated your solution. You clearly stated the value proposition in a nutshell. I mean, I think you did a really good job and overall of your entire elevator pitch, right? The script itself and everything you said, I think is great. It's going to be a great lead in for the rest of your pitch and everything else. The thing I will comment on is the fact that it was just kind of a static image in front of my face, and we asked for a video, and I would like to see, you know, faces or animation or something that describes. I mean, if you don't want to be on video, and I get that, a lot of people don't, but we need to see possibly a little bit more, you know, graphical imagery kind of illustrating what you're talking about as well. So over the next week or so, if you could make another pass of this and either do it on video, which is probably the simplest thing, or just kind of animate a slideshow to go along with your pitch, either one I think will be good. I don't want you to spend too much time on this because you've already done a great job, right? But the other two definitely included their faces and the videos and stuff like that. So, but again, you don't have to change anything with the script. I think it was perfect. Any questions for team 2? All right. Team 3. All right, hang on. Loaded earlier. Let me, team 3.
Epilepsy afflicts nearly 65 million people worldwide and is characterized by the hypersynchronized activation of neurons within the brain. Despite over 40 anti-seizure drugs being currently available, nearly 1/3 of epilepsy patients respond poorly to these medications and are unable to achieve adequate seizure control. Overactivation of the TRPC3 channel has been linked to the main reasons patients are unable to achieve seizure freedom. Therefore, our novel TRPC3 blocker, JW65, should provide unprecedented benefits for these patients who cannot find relief from the currently available medication. Thanks to JW65, their quality of life will be remarkably improved. The promises by this compound are not only attractive to pharmaceutical industries who are urgently seeking next-generation anti-seizure medication, but are also desirable for insurance companies, as the administration of JW65 will reduce the odds of seizure-associated accidents. Therefore, the discovery and implementation of JW65 will revolutionize the treatment options available for those with refractory epilepsy.
Okay, so 3 out of 3. I think y'all have done a fantastic job. Best cohort yet that we've taught in this. You really understood the assignment, as it says. You know, you've taken everything you needed to take and encapsulated it in 60 seconds. You know, team 3, I love the background image and the little kind of thumbnail video view. It allowed us to kind of look at what is basically an infographic while you were going through your 60-second elevator pitch. I think that's a great idea. right? And so we have something visually to stimulate us and something that's going along to what you're saying. So again, y'all did a fantastic job. You had all the right components in there. You really focused first on the epilepsy patient, which I think is great. We talked about that over the last couple of weeks. And everything else was great. And y'all were right at 60 seconds as well. So I think everybody's done a fantastic job. You can see in the chat here, Team 2 is talking about, making an update to do that because they ran out of time, but they still managed to get the assignment done and done very, very well. So I think everybody did great. A's across the board on that one. Any questions about the elevator pitch? Okay, so let's go ahead and get started through the session tonight. Again, we're going to move through this rather quickly, but we do have 3 teams to review each pitches with and where you are tonight, and then going over the areas that we skipped. So we'll start off with a pitch review, and then we'll go into those areas that we skipped and that you'll need to do for next week, and then make a full pass at everything after that, as far as starting to stylize it and get it more concise. But we'll talk all about that tonight, and we have office hours tomorrow if you need anything. And of course, we're always available by email to answer any questions, or maybe even schedule some time for some deeper dives. Erica sent out an email this week, and that kind of her offer goes for pretty much anyone. Rohan, Ryan, I shouldn't say pretty much all of us, Rohan, Ryan, Shelby, and myself. And of course, Erica's already said that. If your team wants to get in extra practice, you have 5 people to choose from, right? So you can get 2, 3, 4, even 5 of us and get 5 sessions in on top of the sessions we do on the Thursday night. So there's lots of opportunity for you to do your practice pitch, and we'll talk about that and the need for that tonight as well. Okay, going back to, so I need to check with everybody. Has everybody dropped their deck into their team folder? Or will I need to, yes, okay, I see team 3, that's cool. All right. So let's just start with team 3 since we're here. Ryan, I can see you can see the slides that are up there. A revolutionary anti-seizure drug. Great. Okay, Google Slides taking a little time to come up. I can already tell I like it. I mean, as far as the style goes, y'all have already jumped to the occasion and started to really make yours stylistic. And I use that word a lot. It's not for nothing. Having a nice looking slide adds to the overall punch of the presentation. It always will. If you have just a generic white slides with black text, it's not going to carry over as well. Your information can be very, very compelling. Your presenter can be very, very compelling, but there will be kind of the third piece that's falling short, right? So, and design doesn't have to be overly difficult, and it doesn't have to be complex in its creation. There are dozens slides to go. Invanto, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of sites out there where you can get free PowerPoint templates or free slides templates, pay a few dollars for them, or pay $20 or $30 for an incredibly good large deck slide template that you can utilize and just drop your stuff into. So the work's been done for you. But if you want to create your own, go for it. All right, so back to it. A revolutionary anti-seizure drug. And so just team 3, just be prepared for questions or anything else as we go through this, but also ask me your questions as well. So again, with your elevator pitch, you started off here as well. And I think that's great. There, you can kind of see the congruency between the two, and hopefully you can kind of start seeing how your elevator pitch can be a way for you to start your conversation. So first, describing the problem area space, and that it's a neurological condition and lots of reoccurring seizures. You can add in here what we talked about last week, which is, talking and kind of personifying this, talking about the number of people that have seizures for epilepsy or other seizure-related conditions, and how their life is just really not great because it's completely full of stress, worrying about when the next seizure incident is going to happen, right? And you do that, you kind of go into, and again, I haven't looked at these yet, so I'm gonna walk through. So I might say something on a slide before, then see it on the next slide. That just means you've already done it, which is great. So you're talking about the impact of the problem. Absolutely. Let's talk about the facts. 3.4 million people and this is good. This sets the stage for how big and hairy and ugly the problem is. And I think that's always good, especially when you add some things like this, tidbits of a million Americans experience seizures despite taking anti-seizure medications. with less than 5% success rate on reducing those numbers, or after trying 2 medications, the chances are third medication will control seizures is still less than 5%. So, you know, packing on pills and doing different things and trying to get the right cocktail together is still extremely ineffective, right? And so that's when you can lay this. So between these two slides, you're going to be able to lay out the problem area pretty well. I mean, very well. And then you kind of go into the specifics. So let's see, drug resistant. Okay, so you're starting to talk about the drug-resistant epilepsy, seizures that continue despite appropriate treatment with, okay, so this is you layering into kind of more understanding what the patient's going through, that these are resistant to most therapies and resistant to most medications, how large it is. I think between these two slides, just ensure that you're not kind of spewing on the facts, right? And not repeating the facts and not just belaboring on one fact. Now, I like facts, and so I'm not saying you have too much. I'm just cautioning you and kind of advising everybody when they're going into the facts page and trying to set the stage. Just don't beat the dead horse, right? You know, it's just stick to the most, you know, probably 1 to 3 top most impactful issues that relate to your problem that kind of set the stage. This is still all great stuff, though. All right, so marketing a customer. 1/3 of elderly patients are unable to achieve seizure control with currently available anti-seizure medications. So let's look back here. So 1 in 3 people with epilepsy or have DRE, the first 2 drugs. So, you know, really one way to think about it is considering that you set the stage for the number of people who have epilepsy in the United States, as well as 65 million people worldwide, and kind of the, you know, the crappy side of it, that 1 in, I see people in the US develop epilepsy in a lifetime. Okay, so 1 in 26, you go on to kind of smear it even more and say it's even worse. Oh, wait. And then, you know, you've already kind of started talking about the customer a little bit and how large the customer segment is. Here, is it, I think you probably need to also kind of introduce how you have that multi-segmentation, right? You have both customers, like it's focusing on the patient. And I think that's probably the most important thing, but there's multiple people that will be benefiting from this, if I remember correctly. So 1/3 of epilepsy patients are unable to achieve. So I think probably between these 3 slides, you're going to cover the problem pretty well and set up the numbers for the customer. And here you're just doing the call out, right? You're doing the call out of the people that are drug resistant and still having seizure, you know, no seizure free kind of life. So I'm saying, let's see, probably slide 4 and slide 5 need to be combined a little bit to be the customer. Between slides 2 and 5, I think you've established who the customer is, what the problem is, and how big and hairy it is.
Hey, Brian, are these 5-minute pitches?
I think with 3 teams, we should allow them to do 7-minute pitches with 3 to 5 minutes worth of questions.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want y'all to feel like you'll have a little bit of time to talk about these subjects. Okay, so going into 6, you start introducing the solution, going into the value proposition, competitive unfair advantages. I like this competitive matrix. Go to market. So this is kind of just starting this, go to market strategy. I like this imagery. So you've really kind of started to kind of add some stuff to some of the other ones too, and the rest of them. All right. Okay. So I think you're doing well. I just need to see a little bit more of like the facts that you're going to highlight and pinpoint, right? So just having these image up here, I think this one's good. I think this one, you need to start drawing some things out of it with just some descriptors and some text saying, you know, what out of this am I supposed to be important, right? When you have something like this in a big infographic, you need to pull out really the most important areas. And then when you're setting up the stage here, this is when you talk about how big the customer segmentation is that's suffering from this, and go directly into your solution. We need to see more about the solution and more about the unique value proposition though. So this is just kind of a catch-all. I don't want to see the solution statement in just 4 or 5 words. I want to actually see, you know, the slides of what your solution is made up of, what it actually will do, and what promises you're making in order to deliver that unique value proposition. So I think y'all have gotten a really good start on everything you need to get done. I mean, you're about on the kind of the part that I think you had to do last night, you're about 70% there, maybe 65% there. More detail needs to be added. I think the imagery is good. I like the style of the slides. We're going to go into, I mean, if I had to pick between which one competitor matrix went to the other one, I really like this one more than this one. So this is another kind of graphically and pleasing slide. And then, tonight we'll talk about these other slides as well. So I think y'all have made a good first pass, and it's going to get better week over week. Any questions from team 3?
No, I think that was great. Thank you so much, Brian, for your input. Yeah, we like you saying, we just kind of wanted to get like a general idea of like, these are the kind of slides we wanted to put, but we didn't know exactly like what to put specifically for tonight. So like infographics, we were just like, oh, this would work really well for this slide. This would work really well for this slide. But yeah, the input really helps. Thank you.
This is the same. You're welcome. This is the same kind of first pass I do too. I mean, just I don't know if you care about this, but my method is this. I actually start with style. I go find a slide deck that I think matches the general context and content that I want to present. I try on a few different ones, and then I do this very thing. I lay down the structure of the deck and the pitch template. We already have the structure. So after that structure there, I just start I put in more bullets, right? I actually just start layering in bullets on each one of the slides, or just information that I know I want to cover in that area. And then I start pulling in the graphics that I want. You'll notice the decks that I even present to y'all are stylized in a way they seem inconsistent, but there's actually a consistent theme every week that goes along with the deck, and it's part of an overall theme as well. So thinking along these lines really is going to help you. Having just the bullets and everything else tonight, that's great. I think this is going the extra step, which is actually graphically laying it out and getting it all kind of sized up in your head. And I think most of the time when I do it, when I've got to this point, I kind of feel like I'm 50 to 60% there, right? Another 20 to 30% of effort to get more content in each slide. And then there's a kind of that diet phase where I'm starting to take things out that I think are just overkill and just covered too much. And then I spend the last period of time leading up to the presentation time just being very OCD about every slide, just really tweaking every message, every piece of content, every image, every icon, every logo, every table, everything is aligned, all the fonts. I am one of those believers that if anything has something that is kind of off, someone's going to see it and they're going to start thinking about it. That's just my kind of OCD thinking. You don't have to be that OCD, but trust me, when you start seeing decks and you're seeing a lot of them, you notice these inconsistencies. So my point being is when you're trying to get money from analysts and they're looking at decks, the better looking your deck is and the less kind of screwy it is, it's going to help you when you're having a lot of people review your information, right? So you want to be able to leave a punch with your deck, even if you're not there to present it. I think that's the best way of saying it. All right, team 2, let's move on. Okie dokie. Is there a deck? Okay, right here. Okay. Oh, I like the green. It's very John Deere-ish. Now, remember, we talked about John Deere colors. Now, as long as you don't put a hat out there with John Deere colors, I think you're gonna be fine. But this is lovely. I love the contrast. I think this is also a really nice stylized kind of thing. It's got a lot of potential. So it's very, very clear and understandable. I think it's great. It's got, relevant imagery. It's perfect. As far as style goes, I hope y'all like it as much as I do. The problem is food scarcity. Okay, so you start off real quick. The world population will reach 10 billion by 2035, which will mean an increase between 58 and 90% in food demand. So here's something I'll say about this. When you're stating the problem, you really can, and I'm not going to tell you what a preference is because it's all in the context. You can go 2 different directions, right? You can show what food scarcity really looks like, or you can show food in abundance that is needed to solve food scarcity, right? So one is kind of a positive spin that's not right in your face with all the dirty details, and one isn't. One is really showing you, what the downside of food scarcity and food deserts really are all about, right? There's not an answer of which one's right or wrong. To me, it's about your preference and your style. How do you want to deliver the narrative? How do you want to deliver the hook, the punch of what the problem is? If you want to say it's a big, hairy problem, but show positive images for where the solutions that are needed to fix that problem, I think that's great. It really depends on also how it just lands with the audience. So you might find out that you've gone too dark. And I mean that from a kind of a mood perspective, and you'll have to pull back on that. You can also certainly see, in more cases than not, generally, someone going too light, right? Too hyper, too enthused, too overreactive. or over interactive about the subject and really kind of loses the message. So here, I have no problem with this whatsoever. It's really going to be about y'all's decision around what kind of mood and vibe you want to set right from the beginning. Just know that you need to carry that kind of theme through other sections, and then you might have to pivot. Like if you're in a really dark kind of start, you want to get to a kind of light kind of ending in the narrative when you get to the solution side, right? Because you want to show them light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, enough about that. All right, so worldwide population reached 10 billion by 2035. We're certainly going to have food problems. Not finished, thanks for the note. Agriculture market, yep, setting the stage, 21 billion, 1.9 billion in Africa. So you're kind of setting the stage. I'm assuming these are areas that have the highest problem, or the largest problem, I should say, or areas that you want to focus on without actually saying that part. You're just kind of drawing attention to those areas. But I mean, you're really trying to draw attention to the big numbers. And we know food scarcity is a global problem. So it's not like you're trying to solve this just for one state in the United States of America, right? So we'll all get that easily. Okay, the solution design plant that grows. I really like these kind of, I think you're doing these on purpose. These kind of red kind of, draw my attention to some of the most important words that you're using to describe what either the problem or the solution is. I think that works out pretty well. Design plant that grows faster, efficiently, and stronger with a novel genetic engineering using artificial vector block targeting chloroplast. Okay, I mean, again, I think you're just stating the solution, and it's like most highest glorious terms. So when we get into it, we're definitely going to need to see more about the solution, but this is the first pass. So I think it's really solid. Value proposition, this is great. I think this looks great. Increased performance, technology, risk and cost, catalog. Make sure that the value proposition is something that's that's stating what is being delivered, right? The pain alleviation or the gain creation or some sort of performance standard here, right? So if you're increasing performance, how much are you increasing performance, right? And what kind of impact did that made? Same with the technology. The catalog of varieties, that's important, a large variety of different things. So I think these are good. You could probably go down a little bit deeper in talking about some more lower level impacts to the customer, but I think you're at a good pace right here, a good level right here too. Value proposition timeline, that's probably out of order. Competition was the other one. Seed engineering market, us, definitely going to need to see more here. But DNA engineering, risk of pollen drift, highly regulated, 6% faster and cheaper, no regulation. I mean, I suggested a table on the last team we looked at. They had a great chart that shows all of the bubbles up there and where they fall in that matrix. And I like that too. It doesn't mean you have to have a chart or a matrix or anything like that, right? You can have slides just like this that highlight 2 or 3 things, especially if you're in a space that doesn't have a lot of different competitors. If it's just you and them, I think you can get away with this. We need to be a little bit more descriptive of who they are, and probably a little bit more information that delineates you and differentiates you from the competition. To me, this doesn't, if I was an investor, this doesn't give me enough, right, to understand the space. I'm certainly going to have more questions about the competitive space, but I do want to have some of my earlier questions answered right off the bat, like how big is it? Who are all the players? What are the names? So I can either identify them or not in the areas that you differentiate for them. Okay, I think y'all are at the same level as the last team. You've got a great first pass. I think you should have a fairly clear direction of where you want to take it from here. Any questions from team 2?
No, Brian, thank you very much. This was just a draft, but yeah, the competition slide we has to review because yeah, we will put more stuff for the next weeks. But thank you very much for your input.
Yeah, I think it's very farm oriented, this whole deck and slide and everything else. So I think y'all picked a great one. Y'all must have already known some of the tricks about the templates and everything I said. In the years past, we've kind of had to start from scratch, most people. And so far, y'all have kind of picked, y'all have worked smarter, not harder, as far as the deck goes. And that's a great thing. Let somebody else do the work for you. Okay, team 1. Okay, I'm just looking at some of these slides, but I can appreciate the fact that you two or you as well, I've started to kind of think along the lines of imagery and what you need to put in here to just show your product. This is very clean, right? I see the style that you're going for. It doesn't have to be more stylized than this. Just understand and see that it might benefit you if it was, right? And so you look at, after looking at the other two decks, just kind of imagine areas where you can start moving away from words into these images. Now, I didn't ask you to do that for this thing. So I think what we have here is probably the, closest to what I was expecting, which is like each slide has what you're going to put in there, right? Treating chronic diseases with gene therapy, translational gene therapies. I mean, this is how I do it as well, kind of bulletize these. But I also will say, when you get closer doing the presentation, what you don't want is kind of paragraphs of information on your slides, because otherwise people will start reading those, they'll lose track. They'll think there's, not hearing something that you're covering because there's so much on the slide. If you move a slide quickly, they're not going to be able to get to it, right? And so these things, like this deck that we're doing for an actual presentation, you need to kind of have a good equilibrium between the words and the images, just so it still delivers the message without having something that people will start reading, right? So, but this is where you need to be, right? You have all the information on the problem slide, setting that up. Translational gene therapies like messenger RNA and CRISPR-Cas9 have emerged. Lipid nanoparticles, LNPs, have been developed. I mean, I can start to hear your elevator pitch in my head as I'm going through this, which is good. That's exactly what I would like to hear, right? Because I'm starting to hear that kind of narrative kickoff. So y'all have gone from problem directly into the market, customer, and then the solution. And, this is a little bit different order than some of the other ones. And I don't really have a preference one way or another. Again, I think this goes down to how you're delivering your narrative. If you jump really quickly from the problem and you really want to talk about the whole market and the customers and then go into the solution, you can do that. If you want to talk about the problem and then just cover very lightly the customer and then talk about the solution, then talk about the customer again and how they benefit from the solution and your value proposition, you can do that too, right? So any way you want to kind of stack these up, as long as they're all connected together and you're kind of delivering a nice clean flow through them, is the most important thing. All right, so here's your customer: the drug delivery system manufacturers and the gene therapy payload companies, synthetic lipid particles or image. Okay, so these non-synthetic LNPs are ineffective. So these are their pain points. Currently can't, okay. All right. Okay, so you're kind of drawing a picture on who your customer segmentations are and the problems that they're having, the pains that they're feeling. And now, wham, we've solved the problem: naturally derived lipid nanoparticles with enhanced gene therapeutic loading and delivery efficacy. So this is perfect, right? You've encapsulated the top, these first three segments. So the first segment with these three sections of problem, customer, solution, directly in the unique value proposition. And provide an option for translation currently established. Yeah. I mean, again, y'all have done a great job as well of kind of setting the stage for the first third to half of the deck, right? This is where the narrative is. I can see how it follows along pretty succinctly with your elevator pitch you deliver tonight. And so I think you kind of have that opening for, opening part of your pitch, both your elevator pitch and this. All right, so a little bit some more work to do here. And then, of course, the slides we skipped. All right, great job. I mean, I think, again, y'all have got, each one of y'all have done a really good job of taking what we've discussed, taking what we've learned over the last several weeks and putting that into practice. And that's really what we're seeing, the kind of the fruit of the effort here. And I think everyone's got plenty enough time between now, don't rest on the laurels there, but plenty of time between now and next week and the following weeks after that, before we get to a final presentation, to really craft these decks into something very, very compelling. And we'll keep working on the, the narrative as well, and everything you'll say along with it along the way. Any questions for team one?
And apologize to him. That would only make things worse for him.
I'm sorry, I only heard the first part of that. Can you say that again?
I don't think I have any questions, but I think that's helpful. I think we can kind of maybe expand some of the slides and, we use more images to replace text. So I definitely think there's things we can work on.
I appreciate that. I mean, there's definitely a lot of good work already done as well. So, everybody killed it on the homework tonight. The elevator pitches, the videos, the scripts, the first pass of the deck. I definitely think y'all have done a great job, and y'all have come a long way in the first 7 weeks. So I appreciate y'all's participation greatly. Okay, let's move back into this mode here. All right. So everybody did great on that part. Let's talk about the parts that you didn't work on last week. All right. So now we add some new parts to it. Plus you have, I'm sure, a lot of ideas on how you want to work on the other pieces as well. So first one was go-to-market strategy. This is basically how you will get your solution to market. And it really talks about kind of some early sales type things, but also a little bit about the marketing, how you'll gain attention, how you'll understand how to reach out to your customers, and how you'll attain customers, you'll bring them on, right? And one thing we talked about really early on was the HubSpot, and it's in the toolkit folder on Google Drive, but the HubSpot flywheel, which was attract, engage, and delight your customers, and all the other things that kind of go around that little bitty circle, that those little diagram that I showed you. That's a great way of kind of understanding also how to do this. You know, how are you going to attract customers? How are you going to engage customers? And how are you going to delight customers? What methods you're going to use to go to market? Those might be, you know, striking business relationships with other partners already in the market. It might be on, you know, a full sales front, that because it's direct to customer in some cases. It will also be, you know, important to understand if you have any third parties that your product has to go through in order to get to the end user, right? This is the pathway to kind of talk about it. So think about that channels block that you had on the idea discovery canvas of like all the things you need to deliver a product, and this includes marketing and everything else. So take a pass at this, and we'll talk about this more next week as well, but I can also answer any questions you have. All right, so next we go into the business model, you know, how you will structure yourself. How do you make money? Explain your pricing. Make sure you know the key assumptions underlying your plan success. Be ready to articulate sensitivity of your business and variations in your assumptions, right? So this is like, that was the slide before is like how we're going to go to market, how we're going to engage the customer. This one is like, how are we going to set ourselves up to make money? What are we going to charge? How are we going to charge it? Where our profit is? Now, for y'all, we haven't spent a lot of time breaking down how you're making money, right? I would like for you to, on these last two slides, especially this one and actually and the next one, is to kind of think about how you would, right? There's not going to be any right or wrong answers for next week as far as business model goes. What I want to see is if we can craft a high level view of the business structure and the pricing and how you'll make money between now and next week. And when I say high level, I mean just put out some thoughts of high level how you're going to do that, right? And we'll talk about it. And where I really want to get to is the point where if it's something that, because we didn't have enough time to spend, just because of the way this whole program is structured, to go deep enough into these things, I don't want to add it to the deck and have something that kind of falls flat, right? So, but I don't want to just cut it without any reason, because it is an important slide. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Read about the business model on this slide, take an understanding of this is how you're going to make money and how you're going to, you know, what profit and your pricing and everything else, and kind of explain that component to it. And we'll go over it next week and then see where we go from there. Same with revenue model, right? So, but this one's a little bit easier. Once you've kind of understood the price points and the model that you're going to do to make money, this is really about extrapolating that over a period of time, right? So if you want to say that there is a $1 trillion market and we're going to go get 1,000 new customers in phase one and 10,000 customers in phase two and 2 million customers in phase three, based on my price points that established in the slide before the business model, this is how much I'll make in year one, year two, and year three, right? So keep it just very basic at this point. Once you've decided how you're going to make money and how much you're going to charge, then here you can just kind of extrapolate 3 years of a forecast to show how much market share you'll get and how much revenue you can generate. I think that's the most important thing at this point for this phase. Obviously, if you're a startup on this pathway after this program, you're going to spend a heck of a lot more time in these last two slides, right? A lot of information needs to be shared to this. For this program, we're kind of going at a high level, right? So on the last two slides, I want you to take your best effort at giving us a way to make money and how much money you think you can make over 3 years with a scaling customer acquisition kind of outlook, right? So pick a number for the first year, raise that by some sort of percentage in the second year, and then raise it by some sort of percentage in the third year. I'd be a little bold, but try to be realistic at all times of what you actually think this product could do. And let's see what we can come up with for next week's discussion. Okay, the ask. Again, this is not something that we've spent a lot of time on, although we've spent a lot of time around it. This is when you kind of put together what you're going to need to get you through the next 12 to 18 months. In some cases, it might be through the next 6 months. In some cases, it might be through the next trial, right? You might actually ask someone to just fund your next set of trials about your product. Maybe it's $25,000. This is also something where you can kind of put in there about grants that you've gotten or you're asking for. You can put on how much money you've already raised and what you're trying to raise total and how much more you need. But in general, this is kind of just a slide that says, hey, I need $500,000 to get me through the next 12 months to get my product to market where I can start generating revenue. And at that point, we'll have 100 customers and this will be our revenue on a monthly basis, right? So here it's about kind of saying how much you need, how much runway you need, and then giving a bulletized list below it or in some sort of imagery or however you want to do it, what you're going to spend that money on. So traditionally, a lot of slides like this, you'll see someone saying, I need $500,000. We're going to spend that on marketing, on strategic personnel, on product development, on fabrication and manufacturing, and distribution to in our sales to move 1,000 units by the 12th month. And I think that's pretty much the whole context of this slide, right? Is to show I need this, and this is what I'm going to do with it, and this is what's going to happen once I have that money, right? Here's the milestones I'm going to achieve and the profits I'm going to yield. For our exercise, I want you to, I know it says week 7 homework, but I want you to not worry about this one. Just worry about the business model and the revenue slide, and then we'll figure out the best way to encapsulate an ask from there. So I know it says week 7 homework, but we're going to change that to week 8 homework. So all the 2 slides that you need to worry about for now is revenue model and business model and the go-to-market strategy, right? So go-to-market strategy, business model, and revenue model, and then ask. And then the other slides are like your team slides and everything else. I mean, those are easy. You can kind of do those towards the end. If you want to go ahead and make a pass at them, that's great. And then your thank you slide, which is just the one at the very, very end. And that is something that can take 5 minutes to do as well. So I wouldn't worry about those, just those 3 tonight. So go to market, business model, and the revenue slides. Skip, ask, and then work on the other slides, however you choose. But we'll focus on these 3 slides next week and spend a little bit more time on them. And then we'll also do a complete pass of the pitch for each one of the teams as well. And if we have any updates to the elevator pitch videos, we'll do another showcase of that also. Okay, any questions about the 3 slides you need to add between now and next week? Okay, so it's just 3 more slides. Everybody's doing great. You've gotten a lion's share of the kind of base work done. So now we're just adding more and more content. Okay, so homework, the pitch deck, complete the remaining slides that we talked about. Skip the ask, don't worry about that one. I know it's up there. Start creating your pitch script. You should start with your elevator pitch script and start expanding from there. You moved many sections into just 60 seconds. Now you're gonna have 7 minutes. So you can really draw things out, decide how far you want to draw them out. Remember, don't keep going down the hole and lose your audience. I think that's probably the biggest risk, but certainly deliver that punch with the positive or negative impact, however you're really setting up your narrative, and then the facts to support that. So then start practicing. I mean, you can't start early enough or often enough as far as that goes. Start laying out the script, start practicing the script, see how it flows with the slides. If you're going to be splitting up in certain, there's going to be several of y'all delivering the presentation, start working on those, those segues between one or the other, or topic to topic or slide to slide, wherever you're doing those transitions. Just keep practicing. You'll start seeing these practice on every one of the homeworks going forward. and then sign up for your pitch reviews for your one-on-one sessions. I mean, I said earlier, there's 5 of us that are happy to do pitch reviews with you. All of us have done this before several times. So we all have a lot of practice, a lot of feedback that we can provide, and we can help each one of your teams. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us to help you out in that regard.
And Brian, just to add to that, you guys don't have to have your pitches finalized. You can send us your decks as well, and we can look those over and just make critiques there. So don't feel like you have to have it perfectly ready to go to get feedback.
Exactly. Great addition. Okay. Believe it or not, we're stopping at around an hour, but we can open up the conversation for any topics that you want to address, or we can give you your time back to go work on your decks.
I have one question. If iLab get grants, can we talk about it? Because it's not for grant, it's not for money, it's the money that the lab raised for the project, but not for us. So can we use this grant as?
Yeah, so there's a slide in the larger pitch deck. I think I'll have to look at it and make sure it's there, called Traction. I mean, that's a great one to talk about that as well, like the grants that you have received, this program, anything you've gotten so far to help you along the way. If there's been patents, those patent dates. So yeah, I would talk about both anything you've gotten grant oriented or any other kind of milestone, and also about things that you're going after, right? So you're in, in the finalist of consideration for an NSF grant or whatever it might be. So you can put that out there as well. Other questions? All right, we're available for any questions you have. Just send us an email. I think I've beaten this one like a dead horse. Just very happy with the progress they've all made. I think there's some great stuff here. I think everything's looking great, and I have great confidence that we're going to go through the next few weeks leading into the final presentation and see even more of it session by session, and then everyone's going to give a great presentation at the end. So I'm pretty excited. I appreciate it. All right, that's it for us tonight. If there's not any final questions, I'll close it out. All right, thanks everybody. Have a good evening.